the most common calls we receive sounds something like this. Paula, we have a problem. There are 3 beneficiaries, 2 want to sell, 1 doesn't. Or maybe 1 beneficiary thinks the property is worth more. Maybe 1 wants to keep the house. Maybe 1 doesn't trust the trustee. Maybe family relationships were already strained before the trust administration even began. And now everyone wants to know the same thing. Can 1 beneficiary stop the sale? Today, we're going to answer that question and discuss what happens when beneficiaries disagree about trust property. Hi, I'm Paula Aragone with Aragone & Associates. For more than 23 years, we have helped hundreds of trustees, attorneys, fiduciaries, and families throughout Orange County navigate complex trust property sales. We maximize value and minimize stress. Strategy is what we do. And if there's one thing that I've learned over the years, is this: trust administration is rarely about the house. It's usually about the people. The house simply becomes the place where emotions, memories, financial concerns, and family dynamics all come together. Today, we're going to talk about how trustees navigate those situations and what happens when beneficiaries don't agree. One of the biggest misconceptions families have is that trust administration is a democracy. In most cases, it isn't. Many beneficiaries assume that everyone has to agree before decisions can be made. But generally speaking, that's not how trust operates. The trustee is typically responsible for administering the trust, carrying out instructions, and making decisions consistent with their fiduciary duties. Beneficiaries have important rights. They have the right to information, they have the right to ask questions, they have the right to seek legal advice, but beneficiaries are not necessarily the decision makers. That's an important distinction, because if every trust decision required unanimous agreement, many trusts would never be administered. In my experience, beneficiaries rarely disagree because of the house itself. They disagree because of what the house represents: memories, childhood, loss, fairness, money, family history. Sometimes one beneficiary wants to keep the home because it reminds them of their parents. Sometimes another beneficiary needs their inheritance to help support their own family. Sometimes one believes the property is worth more. Sometimes long-standing family conflicts suddenly resurface. What appears to be a real estate dispute is often something much deeper. And understanding that helps trustees approach the situations with empathy while still fulfilling their responsibilities. One example that comes to mind involved a trust property in Huntington Beach. The family had been referred to us by Cheryl Walsh, a highly respected elder law attorney whom we've had the privilege of working with on a number of trust and elder care matters. The trustee was facing a very difficult situation. The property had been sitting vacant for quite some time. It wasn't being used, it wasn't generating income, it was essentially serving as a storage place for personal belongings, memories, and family history. At the same time, the property represented a significant asset that could help fund the ongoing care needs of their mother. One sibling understood the financial realities and supported moving forward with the sale. The other sibling opposed it, not because they were trying to be difficult, not because they wanted to create conflict, but because letting go of the family home felt like letting go of a piece of their parents and their childhood. And that's something many families struggle with. The trustee found themselves caught in the middle. On one side was the responsibility to help provide for their mother's care and manage the trust assets prudently. On the other side was a sibling who was grieving the loss of what the home represented. What ultimately moved the process forward wasn't pressure, it was an argument, and it wasn't unanimous agreement. It was information, communication, and process. Working closely with Cheryl Walsh and the family's advisors, the trustee gathered the necessary information, evaluated the available options, and documented the reasoning behind the decision. The trustee understood that their job wasn't to choose sides. Their job was to make decisions that served the trust and the beneficiaries based on the facts and circumstances at hand. And that's one of the most important lessons trustees can learn. Sometimes everyone agrees, sometimes they don't, but trust administration cannot always wait for unanimous approval. The trustee's responsibility is to make informed decisions that serves the best interest of the trust and carries out the purpose for which the trust was created. In this case, the property was ultimately sold. The sale proceeded successfully and the home achieved an excellent result for the family. Most importantly, the trustee was able to move forward with confidence, knowing that they had acted thoughtfully, responsibly, and with the proper guidance from an attorney every step of the way. The mother's care needs were addressed, the trust objectives were fulfilled, and the family was able to move forward. That's what successful administration looks like. Beneficiaries are not powerless, and it is important to understand that beneficiaries can ask questions, they can request information, they can express concerns, they can seek their own legal counsel, and they can challenge actions they believe are improper. But disagreement by itself does not automatically stop trust administration. This is one of the reasons communication is so important. Many disputes can be avoided when beneficiaries understand the reasoning behind a decision. People may not always agree with a decision, but they are far more likely to accept it when they understand how it was reached. Here's something every trustee should remember. The trustee's job isn't to make everyone happy. The trustee's job is to carry out the purpose of the trust. Those are not always the same thing. There will be sometimes when some beneficiaries agree and others don't. There may be situations where no solution satisfies everyone. That's why trustees most focus on facts, professional guidance, documentation, and the terms of the trust itself. Because at the end of the day, the trustee's responsibility is not to choose sides. The trustee's responsibility is to make informed decisions that serve the trust and its beneficiaries as a whole. When families become divided, they often ask, who wins? But that's usually the wrong question. A better question is, what outcome best serves the trust and the beneficiaries? That simple shift changes everything. It moves the conversation away from personalities, away from emotions, away from old conflicts, and back to the purpose of the trust. When families focus on that question, resolution often becomes much easier. For the attorneys, fiduciaries, and trustees watching this episode, one thing we've learned from working alongside some of Orange County leading trust and estate attorneys is that communication often resolves issues long before litigation becomes necessary. The earlier concerns are addressed, the better the outcome tends to be for everyone involved. When trustees communicate clearly, document decisions, and seek guidance early, many potential disputes never become serious conflicts. That's one of the reasons collaboration between trustees, attorneys, fiduciaries, accountants, and real estate professionals can be so valuable. Everyone is working towards the same goal, protecting the trust and serving the beneficiaries. Beneficiaries don't always have to agree, but everyone benefits when decisions are explained, documented, and communicated clearly. The trustee's job isn't to choose sides. The trustee's job is to carry out the purpose of the trust. And when trustees make informed decisions, seek proper guidance and keep the lines of communication open, even difficult decisions can often be resolved successfully. If you're a trustee dealing with beneficiary disagreements, before making major decisions, seek guidance early. A conversation at the beginning of the process can often prevent months of frustration later. If you're navigating a trust property sale and would like a confidential strategy consultation, we're always happy to be a resource. Our goal is simple: to help trustees maximize value, minimize stress, and move forward with confidence. I'm Paula Aragone with Aragone Associates. For more than 23 years, we've helped trustees, attorneys, fiduciaries, and families navigate trust property sales throughout Orange County and beyond. If you found this episode helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone dealing with a trust property or family estate. And if you have questions you'd like to answer in a future episode, leave them in the comments below. Strategy is what we do. I'll see you in episode 6.